Anime saved my life. No matter how shitty things were, however lame and boring real life got, there was always an anime I could look forward to, a new story that inspired me. But modern anime sucks. There are no original stories and legendary manga don't get the adaptations they deserve. The golden age of anime and manga is over and corporations are dancing on its grave. So how did we get here? How did we go from long-running, personality-shaping anime to short-lived, dopamine-fiend slop?
No happy face!
To understand this, we gotta look at where the anime industry started. All the way back in the 1950s, in post-World War II Japan. Japan was devastated by the war. Most imperialist institutions were rightfully bankrupted and demilitarized. The rebuilding process was kick-started with financial assistance from the Americans, and I'm sure the Americans did it out of the goodness of their hearts. I swear. Reality is the Americans wanted a manufacturing pylon in Asia, one that could export cars and other cheap machinery while curbing China's expanding influence. This post-war economic resurgence, powered by American capitalist money, meant that the old disgraced samurai class became capitalists, and they set up anime companies. The first anime production companies were Toei Animation and Mushi Productions. They scooped up short film animators and cartoonists and produced early anime like Astro Boy and The Legend of the White Serpent. A similar flow of capital ushered in a golden age for shonen and shoujo manga.
Astro Boy bombs away on your mission today.
While the Japanese capitalist experiment was underway, the US dollar was cementing its place as our reserve currency. But they had to deal with Japanese imports first. See, the Japanese did their job well, almost too well, and their miraculous growth had the Americans shook. They were on track to replace the United States as the world's largest economy if they kept exporting machines and electronics to the States. To counteract this mess, the Reagan administration bullied the Japanese to sell their US dollar reserves through the Plaza Accords in 1985. Threatening the Japanese with tariffs should they fail to comply. This sell-off spiked the value of the yen and made importing Japanese goods expensive for Americans. Remember all those made-in-Japan record players and TVs your parents had? You can't find any now because they were forced out of the market.
As perhaps you've heard, last week I placed new duties on some Japanese products in response to Japan's inability to enforce their trade agreement with us on electronic devices called semiconductors. Now, imposing such tariffs or trade barriers and restrictions of any kind are steps that I am loath to take.
To counteract this effect, the Japanese gambled on fostering domestic investment and flooded the market with cheap yen at low interest rates. This really juiced the entertainment industry. Staff from Toei and Mushi Productions had the skills, so they borrowed big and set up shop, opening studios across Japan. Madhouse, Gainax, and JC staff were a part of this early crop. This was also the time when the anime art style became standardized, with bigger eyes for shoujo characters and more detailed action panels. Studios were making record profits, with some productions returning 10 times their initial investment. Strangely, this was also the time when there was a moderate wage growth for animators because of the increased demand. I know, wage growth. 2025 could never. This boom allowed larger studios to adapt well-liked manga like Fist of the North Star, the OG Dragon Ball, and Legend of the Galactic Heroes. Young television networks quickly licensed these anime, and communities of fans developed. So did the market for merchandise, action figures, and gacha. Anime in Japan was now mainstream. And like all bubbles, this one popped too. Interest was due and a lot of borrowers went tits up. And not in a good way, cause guess what? Wannabe capitalist cucklords had gambled all their money away on high-risk investments, real estate projects, and over-leveraged stocks. The Japanese economy was in freefall and they had to borrow trillions to stay afloat, entrenching toxic work culture, stagnating wages, and killing any local investment. The Japanese economy still hasn't recovered, by the way, 30 years later. This market crash blew the face off smaller anime studios that mainly relied on selling DVDs and TV broadcasts. Larger studios like Toei and Madhouse diversified their income by selling merch, toys, and figures for longer-running series. It was the late 1990s and the Japanese economy was showing no signs of recovery. Media companies needed another money train to keep growing, so they turned to their guardian angels again, the Americans. They licensed a small company, Funimation, to dub popular series in English and launch it abroad. Dragon Ball Z aired on Cartoon Network. This is probably where you and I got into anime. I wish I had a time machine sometimes. When anime became a global sensation, more corporations wanted a piece of the pie, so they began co-producing anime, with manga publishers owning the original rights, the studios making the anime, and the TV station for broadcasting it. They had merch companies that made and sold merch. Anime production now involved many players and the studios themselves lost fiscal control. They became contractors to larger corporations. Animators and voice actors got no say in this transition, by the way. They had to adapt or perish. Amidst all this chaos, 3 manga, Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach printed unlimited money. They sold millions of copies, DVDs, merch, and video game adaptations. The mangakas got rich, the editors got rich, and they got dubbed the Big Three because of how influential they were. These manga developed hardcore fan communities and inspired a generation to take up voice acting, create their own manga, and build YouTube careers. New anime could only dream of having the dedicated fan bases the Big Three had. I guarantee you, people have named their kids after some of these characters. Editors for these mangas encouraged the mangaka to keep going. One Piece would have ended a long time ago, way back in Arabasta, if it weren't for its editors. In the early 2000s, the Big Three pulled $8 billion in total revenue. The TV networks heavily relied on them for their weekend and primetime slots. Cartoon Network and Adult Swim would have collapsed without licensed anime as a part of their Toonami block. This was also the time when internet and social media was exploding, so to make anime available to everyone, the first anime pirate sites sprung up. These sites did more to democratize anime than any corporate initiative. Crunchyroll was originally a pirate site launched by a bunch of UC Berkeley students. Crunchyroll aimed to be the YouTube for anime, where groups posted fan subs after ripping anime episodes off TV broadcasts. This felt like paradise for us anime lovers. Now the mighty have fallen. Pirates made anime mainstream and the companies were beginning to notice. Crunchyroll raised $4 million from Venrock, a venture capital firm, and they transitioned to the first legal anime streaming site in 2008, and they simulcasted Naruto in 2009, a year after this transition. Toonami was cancelled in 2008 as online streaming killed cable TV, and Crunchyroll expanded its catalog of titles. By 2013, Crunchyroll was the largest legal anime streaming site. Well, for us, without Crunchyroll, there was another place to go to, but we'll save that for another time. The anime community embraced these streaming sites with open arms. It was all smooth sailing, fandoms were strong, anime podcasts were popular, and review channels were everywhere. Some OGs are still active, by the way, please support them. Long story short, we had an actual anime community. Well, they're all replaced with React slop now.
Close your eyes and pretend it's all a bad dream. That's how I get by.
Corporate vultures were constantly hunting for a new growth market, and in 2017 they found one. Anime studios and their production committees realized that hooking normies into anime was key, and in 2018, Sony swallowed Funimation whole. The global streaming landscape turned into a feudal drama, with exclusive licenses, paywalls, and binge baiting. Anime production committees started tailoring shows to be algorithm-friendly. The Big Three's legacy wasn't just scale, it was ambition. And now, ambition meant 12 guaranteed episodes of, escapism, optimized for clip farming. The people demanded their slop, and slop was served, I guess. This enshittification corrupted manga too. Mangaka had a cap on their ambitions now. Why risk 200 chapters of build-up on stories nobody would serialize? You know the agile brain rot in tech companies? Well, they affected anime production cycles too. According to Shonen Jump's former editor, editors today rely too much on data analytics and said manga publishers became like fast food chains. Modern anime is good, and good is all it is, unfortunately. They have no grand ambitions, they aspire to exist in a culture for a few years, and hope to make enough money to justify their existence. Jujutsu Kaisen and My Hero Academia are imitations of classics like Yu Yu Hakusho, from everything to their lackluster endings. You know what's worse than regular venture capital firms learning about anime? It's big tech learning about anime, and big tech triggered a mass extinction event. I am never gonna blame the pandemic for anything, I only blame our colossal mishandling of it. We were all indoors and for the first time ever had the chance to reimagine society. We fumbled the bag, forced people back to the office, and handed corporations a slush fund. Since the pandemic, anime became content to pacify us and sell us more stuff. 70% of what Netflix made in 2023 were isekai and harem focused. That should give you an idea of what they're going for. Remember Crunchyroll? Sony Pictures Entertainment bought it in 2021 and more American money poisoned the well. Crunchyroll built a monopoly. They weaponized exclusivity deals, the algorithms promoted 15-second TikTok clips. We lost diversity in storytelling and subsidized our own creative famine by paying these companies. And we now pay them every month to rent the corpse of the culture they helped murder. Crunchyroll is trying to shorten our stories to appeal to shorter attention spans. A crisis these tech companies created to begin with. It's like the executioner giving us tips on healthy living. Crunchyroll is also outsourcing jobs, so they win, I guess. The next big three isn't just unlikely, these platforms made it structurally impossible. Today, mangaka take up 10% of profits after production committees take 50 to 70%. All this while anime studios are locked to their $300K per episode contracts with shitty working conditions. You know it's a problem when an anime YouTuber can afford better working conditions than large corporations.
And so, originally, the budget I had wasn't even for 15 to 20 minutes. It was for, I pitched the budget, and it was actually for a 10-minute animation. After talking to the producer at Studio Daisy.
Okay.
And I'm like, all right, double it.
Double it, give it to the next person.
Double it, but also give it back to me. I got to take a few more sponsorships, but I think I can still double it. I think
Speed dial Hoya versus like, we're gonna need double the sponsors, boys. Keep it rolling.
I'm like, Geeks Plus, can you get me more sponsorships, please? Because I was like, I tried, and the producer at Studio Daisy, Yoshihara-san, every time I talk to her, she's like, wait, I can just ask for more budget? Wait, and you're going to say yes? What? Wait, I can do that with this? Because I basically said, if there is anything you need to make the project high quality, make the project to fit in the vision that I want it to be, please just ask me for an increased budget, and I will make it work.
Slam it down on the table.
Yeah, I will make it work.
Yeah.
One Piece is the only legendary series left, and we better hold on to it for dear life. There's never gonna be another golden age in anime, manga, or video games if these corporate oligarchies have their say. They're gonna slopify everything, as long as we continue to subscribe to their crap and buy merch, card packs, and whatever other labubufied trinket they're selling.
歴史より消すべき灯火が またお決まりでしょうか。力はそのものの名を。
Now, I'm not gonna blame all this on a large Gen Z audience for anime. They're everyone's favorite generational punching bag. The companies are solely to blame here. According to Crunchyroll, Solo Leveling is Anime of the Year, surpassing Frieren. It all feels rigged because the Solo Leveling anime is a subpar retelling of Hunter x Hunter, and Solo Leveling stans are former MCU sloppers. They won't stick around long enough. Level up, people. There are way better stories worthy of your attention. I gotta remind you once more that animators' wages have stagnated since the early 90s and the hours are crazier than ever. Megumi Ishitani, the legendary animation director for One Piece, said she has to use a cane to walk, and I'm sure the soul-crushing culture of anime production had nothing to do with it. I can't even begin to think what's gonna happen once the AI coalition targets anime. They've already given us a taste of this by trying to murder Studio Ghibli's art. I've seen a lot of videos shitting on the new crowd of anime tourists, whatever that term means, but it's these companies that created them. When you reward people with clip farm dopamine bait, the only crowd you'll attract are casuals. But I guess that's what these companies want, mindless consumers. If you want new fans to stick around, give them new stories that engage them for a while. Stop supporting these algorithm companies that don't have a long-term vision. Stop paying these assholes. I can't stress this enough. Don't subscribe to these slop streaming sites. Find other ways to support animators and mangaka directly. Encourage amateur artists. Buy their manga at the Komike. Reward their efforts. At this rate, we'll all be forced to. Now that they'll eventually tie your accounts to state-issued ID so companies can, sell you even more custom-made slop or straight up ban you from watching. We may be the last generation to truly love anime, and I don't intend on letting the corporal fascists win. When corporate digital fiefdoms become unaffordable, region-locked, and dangerous, they'll all force us to sail the seas.